Hi, I'm Ellen Harris from my historic district. The Cuyler Brownville neighborhood. It's a little over 3/10 of a square mile and has a population of 3,700. It's one of Savannah's oldest African American neighborhoods and was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1998. And this neighborhood has a fascinating history.
And I also was born here.
You were born here?
Yeah, in 1936.
That's where Deacon Reynolds' story begins, West 36th Street, in the heart of Cuyler Brownville, across the street from a home that once hosted African American leaders.
Practically all of our famous preachers that came from New York, Atlanta, and different places have housed in there when they came to Savannah to, in the early 40s, to preach revival.
Okay.
And Martin Luther King's father spent a week in that house when he came to Savannah to preach revival at First African Baptist Church. And as you know, First African Baptist Church is the mother church.
Is that right?
You know, back then in the early 40s, blacks didn't have the facilities to go like this. So First African Baptist Church would house them. Ralph Mark Gilbert, Reverend Stokes, they had preachers that came, from different areas to come here in Savannah and preach revival.
Across the street is the former Charity Hospital, which served the medical needs of the African American community, as well as employed a number of Cuyler Brownville residents.
I remember as a boy when the people used to come from Saxville, they call it Saxville, Georgia. They used to come in horse and wagon down this street to go to the hospital because that was the only Georgia and Furman and the Charity Hospital. Those were the only two hospitals that they had here in Savannah for blacks.
You had the Charity Hospital right there on 36th Street.
Olivia Swanson grew up a few streets away on Hardin Street. She remembers well many of the small businesses that were an important part of the community.
And behind that, you had the A&P grocer. Then on the other side, you had another grocer that was Benny Warsaw's grocer. Then next to the the drugstore was the Elbers Fish Market. So you had just about anything right there. You didn't have to really go out of the community. That was one community, you could almost call it a village, where people knew one another, they married one another. So therefore, there was a cohesiveness in the community. There was pride in the community. There was warmth in the community. There was neighbors helping neighbors. And at Florence Street School, you had teachers living in the same community right around on 37th Street. So therefore, the teachers knew the parents knew the teachers and the children. And so therefore, it was a warm relationship. We all went to Florence Street School, to Beach High School. So I was in a club called the Yad Suits Tuesdays backwards because that's where the day we met was on Tuesdays. And we had little dances. And the parents would be chaperones. Then we would skate on 39th Street. We went into Ogeechee Road. It has a little hill. We all had skates and we would skate up and down 39th Street. So we really had fun.
Everybody were together and every neighbor were concerned about their neighbor. Maybe if you didn't have and I had, I would share what I had with you. And that's the way the older generation, that's the way we did it.
I noticed changes when I came back. I moved away in the early 60s. And when I came back to live, that was in 1985 or 6. It was a drastic change.
It was around the same time that Miss Swanson returned to Savannah that Deacon Reynolds was advocating for improvements to Cuyler Brownville.
Floyd Adams, the mayor, gave us our first grant, which was $5,000. What we did with that, we took that money and we bought lawn mowers, weed eaters, and we went and talked to the parents about, you know, their son. We had boys like 16, 15, 12, you know, sometimes 18 years old. After school program.
I would like to see families get closer together, and keeping your property up. And because you see many vacant places, and the people should have pride in that community, so you will know to try to help keep up your property. When your property goes down, you have eyesores. And when you have eyesores, the community goes down.
I know with the association and with our elders, it was very important, but we tried to reach our people who lived within the community to let them know how important it was for our neighborhood.
The Cuyler Brownville neighborhood, listed on the National Register in 1998, just one of our neighborhoods, forever an integral part of Savannah's rich and diverse history. I'm Ellen Harris for My Historic District.